He sticks to his guns as per 148 that I want you to check compliance for me. I also stick to my guns that I can't check for you, but I see the persistent nature. I then realize, because I've been in this field for some time, I realize that I'm suspecting, maybe let me be very careful in the words that I use. I'm suspecting in my own assessment, due to the persistence of the nature of these messages, that this is now him wanting me to go over and above compliance. He wanted me to go over and above compliance in terms of this matter. Whether it's checking whether they've made it to the next stage or whatever, I don't know, Chair. I don't want to speculate on that, but that I did realize that it was over and above compliance. But in all fairness as well, it doesn't expressly say that. So I can't jump the gun and start conflict where there shouldn't be. So what I decide to do is stick to the initial narrative as per our discussion 148. And the initial discussion was, please check compliance. He pretends like he doesn't know that I said he doesn't. I will also pretend like I will check for you. This is leading me to 177. Was it the smartest approach in dealing with the matter and taking the easier route at this stage in this forum? No, it was not. But that was my understanding at this stage, Chair. Secondly, I was not cooperating with him, Commissioner. I was not cooperating with him. I could not cooperate with him. There was nothing I could do to check any compliance or to interfere in the process. I also did not do anything to suggest with the objective evidence that we are looking at, Chair, that I interfered in this process. I'm explaining the context of that, taking into account the sequence of events from that point in time. So I respectfully, Chair, don't agree with the notion that I was intentionally cooperating. He was playing like a fool. I also played like a fool. Was it the smartest strategy to use to get out this conundrum? It wasn't. Did it assist me in the long run? It did, Chair. Not a single time from here moving forward does he ever ask me about this. So me sitting here, he either understands on his side when he reads this that yes, this guy's really going to help me, or he says, this guy's playing me for a fool, and he leaves the matter. I don't know. But that's my version of events.
Mr. Chaskalson?
No, there are two things, sorry, Mr. Chaskalson. Chair asked you a question, where in the text does Sergeant Nkosi ask you to check compliance? And you have not responded to that. So can you please show Chair where in the text does he ask you to check compliance? And then my question was, you create the impression that it is Sergeant Nkosi who's initiating these discussions. But if you look at 157, it is you who's making multiple calls to him before he sends you that list. It's very early in the morning. It's almost like the first thing you do when you wake up. You make several phone calls to him. And after the third phone call, he then sends you the list, which goes to Chair's point that you requested this and he sent it to you. But now when you respond, you act as if he's the one who's harassing you and persistently sending you this text. But almost every single one of them is preceded by a phone call between you and him, during which phone call you could have easily clarified and said, stop sending me this, there's nothing I can do about this. So please respond to Chair's question first, where in the text does Sergeant Nkosi ask you to check for compliance? And then secondly, deal with my issue that in every instance, he's not harassing you. You've actually called him, and immediately after the phone call, he sends you the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Khumalo. I think firstly, I referred the Commission to 148 and 149. And this is the start of these discussions. Terms of requesting or modes of communication that are in front of us is two ways. The first mode of communication would be via a telephonic phone call. A second mode of communication would be via an SMS. In this instance, I did say to the Commissioner, to the Chair, as well as yourself, Commissioner Khumalo, that the phone call on 149 that took place at 126, well, 326, is when we had a discussion clarifying the above. We'll go back to 148. On 148, he sends me the list of those entities and two other messages from there. I don't respond to him. He calls me once. Clearly, I don't pick up because I see he says Mfwetu, and he calls me a third time. That for me, from my recollection or what would normally happen is I probably didn't answer because I was busy with something. I then call him back.
Sorry, Mr. MNISI, just before you go too far so that I understand you. You refer us to page 149
Yes.
and 126. What do you say is the relationship between 149 and what you're discussing at 148?
Yes. So on 148, he sends me the list of the companies.
Yes,
At 149, we have a discussion on that.
yes.
This is where we have a discussion, and this is where he clarifies to me that he wants me to assist in checking compliance. So the mode of communication might not have been in writing, but there was a telephonic phone call, from my recollection, where he explained why he's sending me the list of these companies.
So let's keep this short then. There is no text or WhatsApp where he says to you in writing, please check compliance.
Yes, and I didn't say there was a text, Commissioner
No,
Kumar.
that's why I wanted to clarify. I'm asking the question so that we are on the same page. There is no text where he says to you, please check compliance. Yes or no?
Commissioner,
Yes or no, Mr. MNISI? There is no text, yes, or there is.
Commissioner, please allow me to express myself because I need to explain to the Commission. I need to explain what happened. And I'm explaining to the Commission that there are two modes of communication.
Are we going to get to the other mode? For now, I'm asking about the text. That's why if you answer the question, we can move to another mode, and I will allow you. To be fair to you, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about the phone calls. So let's deal with the issue of the text first. There is no text where Sergeant Nkosi asks you to check compliance.
Yes, Commissioner,
Yes,
I
now
did say
the-
that. There's no text.
Yes, now deal with your other mode that you wanted
I've
to deal with.
explained to the Commission that the second mode was a phone call, which happened on page 149, where he explains to me why he's sending me those companies. And this is where the issue of compliance comes on board.
Yes. Now, the other issue was, even on 148, before he sends you a list of companies, there's a phone call from you to him. And it continues on 154, it's the same story. 177 is the same story. It's not as if out of the blue he sends you things. There's a phone call you initiate that precedes this text that he sends to you about the companies. Just look at 148, for example. Immediately before the list of companies, there is a call from you to him. Do you see that?
Chair, indeed. Me and this guy used to speak all the time, and it's evident from the chats. There are more than, I think, 390 chats. He was my friend. It's the honest truth. But that phone call that you are referring to has no relation whatsoever to that message that's there. That message that's there is sent about 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, down the line. And I'm trying to explain to you that what relates to this message, the preceding phone call on 149, where he explains to me what he's looking for. This is now answering the first part of your question, because the first part of your question was, I did not respond to the chairperson when he asked me, where is it in writing? So I want to now move on, with your permission, Commissioner, on 157.
Please look at 148 and also 154, because my focus was really on 154, that what preceded those messages on the on the 25th, sorry, where were we? 157. What preceded those messages on the 25th was 3 phone calls that you initiated on the 25th of March, 2025.
What page is that?
157.
Okay, so we're on 157.
Yes, and then immediately after those 3 phone calls, he sends you the list of the security companies.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
But why, Chair, would you assume that I'm the one requesting for entities by virtue of these phone calls? I mean, it's evident that Sergeant Kose now would speak on a regular basis. And I wouldn't feel it's fair for us to assume by virtue of phone calls and create an alignment on certain situations. It is not objective, Chair, at this point in time.
Let me tell you why it's objective. If I call you at 6:02 a.m.,
8.
if I call you at 6:02 a.m. and you and I talk on the phone, and then 10 minutes later, you send me a list without any description, without any narrative, just a list of names. it seems to me that it flows that the discussion was about you sending me the list. That's why the next thing I would do is send you the list. Because if it's a completely different discussion, I would introduce that discussion and say, oh, by the way, there's this other issue. But if all I do is send you a list of names following the discussion on the phone, then those two things are linked. It's human nature, Mr. MNISI. We are all human beings. We use telephones. That's how human beings communicate with each other. It's not rocket science.
Commissioner, I want to disagree with you that respectfully, and my reason for disagreeing is that Sergeant Kose and I engaged in a number of matters, and some of those engagements was as a result of the friendship relationship that we had developed over time. Hence, would have a number of discussions, and it was not linked to this. On this matter, Chair, I'm trying to present the sequence of events and what really occurred from the best of my recollection. From the best of my recollection, I would never and I would not induce him to send me a list of companies to break the law. I would never do that, Chair, and I did not do that.
Very briefly, Mr. Chaskalson, on something quite smallish. Can you go to page 158? At the top, he says sharpen 482 and you say 482. Would I be correct to say that when you say 482 like that, you basically mean thank you, or not really?
Chairman, 158, the
Yes,
second chat from
top
the
of
top.
the page, yes. He says sharpen 482 and you say 482. Would that not either be a thank you or an acknowledgement?
No, this would be me saying I've arrived. We were supposed to meet at a specific venue, as you'll see beforehand. So when he says sharp mfwetu, and when I say mfwetu, I'm saying I've arrived. Because immediately after that, I explain that I've arrived. It was not a form of acknowledgement. It was me telling him I've arrived where we're supposed to meet.
Oh, okay. All right, let me take you to page 157 then. I just wanted to understand your use of mfowethu. Let me take you to 157. Just below the middle of the page, you have another mfowethu there below the two companies or below the two entities. Do you see that mfowethu there?
Yes, Chair.
What does it mean in that context?
So I was taking a discussion. I'm saying, Mfwetu, can we meet at Jean Avenue? This is sent almost at the same time. I was trying to tell you.
Splitting the texts is a bit confusing. You said the same thing about Mfowethu at 158. Yes. The Mfowethu stands all on its own, and it follows him saying sharp Mfowethu. So I thought the Mfowethu was responding to the sharp Mfowethu. Because the text about I've arrived is all on its own. It's the same here as well. You are sent the two names and you say Mfowethu only. And then the text that says, can we meet at Jean Avenue at about 4 is all on its own again.
Yes, Commissioner.
Can you explain why you split these? Let me tell you my understanding. My understanding is that the Mfowethu below the two names at 157 is an acknowledgement of the fact that you've received the two names. That's why it stands all by itself. And then the other one at 158 is just a response to sharp Mfowethu, and you say Mfowethu. It has nothing to do with what comes below that. So the point I wanted to make is, this is merely at 157 an acknowledgement, and I wanted to ask why would you, either an acknowledgement or even a thank you, and my question would then have been, why acknowledge the two names, or why thank Sergeant Kosi for the two names? Because I don't understand you linking that Mfowethu, which is standing all by itself, linking it with the following text. Comment?
Yes, Chair. If you look at the times, Chair, 10:44, 10:44. I've seen
the times. I've seen the times. Just like I've seen the times at 158 as well.
So that's how I communicate, Chair. Unfortunately, it's my way of communication. I would have said, Mfowethu, can you meet at Jean Avenue at about 4?
Why not make it continuous in one text?
It's my way of communication, Chair. That's how I communicate, and it's repetitive a number of times, as you can see in these discussions as well. And not only does that happen within this context and this discussion, but if it's an informal discussion, there's no need for me to formalize it. With my friends, with my family members, this is exactly how I speak, Chair. If it was a need for me to formalize this, I would have structured it in a formal manner, had it been for business, work-related matters. But because this is an individual who is a friend, there's no reason for me to formalize. Hence, this is how I speak. And the alignment between these two is because it's sent at the exact same time. Me saying, Fwetu, can we please meet at Jean Avenue at about 4 p.m.? And it so continues in the next chat as well, Chair.
Mr. MNISI, I just want to go back to an answer that you gave to the chairperson in a previous question that he asked you. And I want to suggest that you are untruthful in your answer. At 177, that text where you are asked in order of priority, 177, where you are given that list of companies in order of priority, the chairperson asked you who is Mfowethu referred to in that text, and you answered, I don't know. And I want to suggest or put to you that you are untruthful with that answer because you acknowledge this message as being sent to you to check for compliance in order of priority. You accept that this is communicating to you to check in order of priority. So that Mfowethu there is the person that is going on your version to check in order of priority. So you are untruthful, or you were untruthful in your answer to the chair when you say, I don't know who is Mfowethu here. A further reason I say you're untruthful about it is that your constant or repetitive way of communicating with Sergeant Nkosi is you refer to him and he refers to you as Mfowethu. That's what these texts that we have discussed so far indicate. But more importantly for me, at 177, if you acknowledge, as you have done, that text to have been directed at you to check compliance in order of priority, you are the Mfowethu that's going to be doing that checking, because that's what that text says. Do you want to comment?
Yes, please, Honorable Commissioner. I would love to comment. Yes, on a number of occasions, myself and Sergeant Nkosi, I refer to him as Mfowethu. He refers to me as the same. So, Chair, I was not untruthful when I say in the context of this message was sent to me. So I understood that it is directed at me. It is directed at me. It is sent to me. So what I understood with this question when I was answering for the chairperson was that I needed to, he asked me, what was this message sent to? What was the importance of that firstly? I said, they wanted me to check compliance. He wanted me to check compliance in the order of this priority, the entities that have been listed here. He says to me, to be given to whom Mfowethu. See, the context on how this has been crafted as well, I'm not sure. What I can assure the committee is that this message is referred to me because it is sent to me. So when I read this message, I was of the understanding that it's sent to me and it was for me to address.
Yes.
I was not truthful. Maybe I didn't understand what the chairperson was saying.
Okay, but you accept that the Mfowethu referred to in this text, it has to be you.
Chair, what I want to accept is that myself and Sergeant Nkosi call each other Mfowethu.
No, that's not my question, Mr. MNISI. Don't formulate your question and then answer it. That's not what I've asked you. It's not helpful for our engagement. I've asked you a question, answer my question. My question is, do you accept, therefore, given your explanation, do you accept that the Mfowethu referred to in this text is in fact you? Contrary to what you said to the chair earlier. Earlier you said to the chair, I don't know who this is, right? And I've demonstrated to you why this must be you. And I've concluded by saying you are being untruthful. And you went on to say, well, I didn't understand the question. And that's why I say, so you do accept that the Mfowethu referred to in this text is you. You either say, I don't accept or I do accept, and then we can move on.
Chairperson, I did accept that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shaskalson?
sort of lost track of where we've been going in the last hour. It's actually, I think this is the longest period I've ever gone without asking a question. But let me try and regain my bearings. Mr. MNISI, before we, I'm going to have to retrace some of the steps you've covered with the Commission, because with respect to your answers are transparently false. And although the Commissioners have already, I submit, shown that, there's a lot more evidence that shows it too. So I need to go through that. But before I get there, I just want to clarify, yesterday, or not yesterday, on Friday, when I asked you to explain a certain text, you said, oh no, it's an autocorrect error. I'm going to take him off actually meant I was going to take him on. You've looked at these texts quite closely now, and the Commission has taken you through them quite closely. Have you picked up any other autocorrect errors that you'd like me to be aware of before we start down this road?
Chairperson, I think firstly, the indication I see that my answers are false. I must try and firstly address that and respectfully disagree with that, because these are the recollection of the events, and I am trying to take the Commission through what transpired at that point in time. But I suspect, as you did mention, that as and when we go further, we'll have further discussions, maybe towards what's leading you to that inference. But respectfully, I would like to disagree with that inference, that my answers are false. They are not false, Chair. These are the true events on the recollection of my knowledge as per the sequence of what was going on this topic at hand. Your second question is a bit, I've got a pack of 669 pages. So I couldn't, from the top of my head, tell you now, Senior Counsel, what is autocorrect, what is not. So can I respectfully request that as and when we go through this, we'll have a discussion on that, but I wouldn't know at this stage.
No, I'm confining myself to these 4 instances where Sergeant Nkosi sends you names of companies that to the rest of us seem to be the names of the companies he wants to get this tender, but to you seem to be the names of the companies in respect of which he's impermissibly asking you to check compliance. We spent the last hour going through those, you and the Commission. Did you come across any autocorrect errors in those chats, looking at those 4 instances?
I think when I was responding, I was focusing on responding to the questions that the Commissioners are posing. I might not have picked up anything whilst we were having those discussions, Evidence Leader.
Right, but where you actually did respond to a specific text, I can be confident that that text means what it says and wasn't an autocorrect problem.
There were instances where when we looked at the chairs, I tried to clarify because of the misunderstanding and the informal nature of the discussions. So I think while the Commissioners were asking questions, there were some points where I tried to explain further, just to give a clear indication of what this actually meant as a result of the highly informal nature of these SMSs. So there are instances of that nature, Evidence Leader, where I'll have to try and explain context further as a result of the informal nature of some of these discussions.
Yeah, no, I'm not interested in context. I appreciate that you may need to explain context, but I'm asking a separate question, which is when the message says ABC, are there cases where actually you typed XYZ, but autocorrect changed it to ABC? That's what I'm asking, because that's what you suggested on Friday in relation to, I'm going to take him off this one. You actually meant, I'm going to take him on that one, on this one.
At this stage, I haven't picked up any.
Okay. Well, if you come across any, please let me know as soon as possible. Thanks. As you correctly point out, there are 4 separate instances where Sergeant Nkosi sends you lists of his preferred candidates for this bid. And you've acknowledged at the end of the process that you realize what he wants now is for these people to be appointed, even though at the beginning you were thinking just check for compliance. So let's take the first one, and that's at page 148 of file 3. And When you addressed this, because you preemptively addressed this with the commissioners, you drew attention to that first message of 3 that was sent on 11 March at 3:21 p.m. Remember to add 2 hours to the timestamps in your chats. You focused on afternoon. My brother, I trust you are well and your family. My sincere apologies for the delay in sending this message. The 2 vehicles for land are, and then Ngapeshea and El Shaddai. Have a blessed Sunday and lots of love. You didn't mention the lists that came underneath. Exactly the same timestamp. GAP, TSS, SSG, AET, Eagle Eye, Premium Security, Ratio Holdings. And then lastly, afternoon, Captain, I trust you are well and your family. The above is from the Red Berets. Please check with Mfowethu if it's the same with his from CIC brackets Juju to verify the authenticity. Why didn't you mention those last 2?
I think the focus was on Ngapeshea, El Shaddai. I think that's what I understood at the beginning.
Look, I'm going to deal with each of these 3 messages in turn, but to begin with, I want to address the fact that all 3 of these messages were actually messages which were forwarded by Sergeant Nkosi to you from messages that he had received from Deputy Chief Dlamini. You're aware of that?
Yes, Chair, I'm aware of that now.
You say you weren't, you're aware of that now. Were you aware of it at the time?
At the time, Chair, I'm aware of it now, Chair. I'm aware of it now.
No, that's not my question. My question is, were you aware of it at the time?
Chair, at the time, I can't recall. It was the 11th of March, but I am aware of it now, Chair. And I'm certain if I were to go back to our chairs, I would see them as forwarded. So let me say I'm aware of that, Chair.
Yeah, I know you say you're aware of it now. I'm asking you, were you aware of it at the time?
Yes, Chair, I must have been aware because messages are clear. They indicate something that says forwarded. So I must have been aware.
And were you aware not only that they were forwarded, but they were forwarded from Deputy Chief Dlamini?
Yes, Chair. I know the way he addresses him. He would normally say Captain. So I was aware.
Yes. So there are, right through your chats, there are a whole series of situations where you communicate with Deputy Chief Dlamini through Sergeant Nkosi. And we'll come to the protocols and propriety of that later. But for now, I just want you to confirm that in those communications where Sergeant Nkosi is forwarding chats from Deputy Chief Dlamini to you, and where he is forwarding chats or screenshots from you to Deputy Chief Dlamini, Deputy Chief Dlamini refers to you as Mfowethu, is that correct?
Yes.
And he refers to Sergeant Nkosi as Captain?
True.
And so is that correct?
That's correct, I see.
And you refer to him as General, as does Sergeant Nkosi?
Yes.
So the characters in those chats are General is Deputy Chief Dlamini, Mfowethu is you, Captain is Sergeant Nkosi.
Yes, Chair.
Let's now take these messages. Let's start with the first one. The 2 vehicles for land are Ngapeshea Security Services and El Shaddai Security Services. Did these 2 bidders ultimately win the tender?
They were part of the panel that won the tender, yes, Chair.
How many people bid for the tender?
There might have been between 57.
57 is in fact correct, yes. We'll see that in the probity report at least. And how many successful bidders were there?
About 7.
7. So 2 of the 7 out of 57 successful bidders just happened to be the 2 bidders who Sergeant Nkosi was asking you to privilege through this process, to give the process to, even though at the time you say you thought he was just asking you to check for compliance on these bidders. Is that correct?
So, Chair, through the process, yes, it's correct, they were awarded.
Yes. Let's look at the second and third messages. There's a list of 7 messages, 7 companies on the second list, on the second message. And on the third message, it says, "Afternoon, Captain." So this is Deputy Chief Dlamini saying, "Afternoon, Sergeant Nkosi. I trust you are well and your family. The above is from the Red Berets. Please check with Mfowethu," that would be you, "if it's the same with his from CIC Juju to verify the authenticity." So Sergeant Nkosi is being asked by Deputy Chief Dlamini to take that list of 7 companies to you to check if it's the same as a list that he assumes Mr. Malema has given to you. CIC Juju, you'll accept as Mr. Malema.
I accept.
So, Deputy Chief Dlamini assumes that Mr. Malema has given you a list of companies in relation to this tender. You accept that? I'm not asking you at this stage if Mr. Malema did, I'm asking you if that is what this message shows the assumption to have been on the part of Deputy Chief Dlamini.
Yes, I accept that, SC.
Now, did Mr. Malema ever give you a list of companies in relation to this tender?
No.
Can you offer any explanation as to why Deputy Chief Dlamini would have thought that Mr. Malema or somebody else from the EFF would have given you a list of companies for this tender?
I don't know.
Can I take you back to your chats? And if we go to page 116, previous month, February of 2025, you, at the foot of page 116, you sent to Sergeant Nkosi a screenshot of an article with the heading, "Tshwane proves governance can thrive without the DA," says EFF's Malema. Then there's a photograph of Mr. Malema underneath it, spilling over onto page 117. And you say to Sergeant Nkosi, "I'm okay, my brother. We are managing this guy, my brother. I just wanted to show you. Mbungulu will never win." And now, what did you mean when you said to Sergeant Nkosi, "We are managing Mr. Malema"?
Chair, I did not mean we're managing Mr. Malema at all. I don't know Mr. Malema. I've never met him. I just know him to be the president of the EFF, firstly.
Sorry, why did you send this picture, this article that says Tshwane proves governance can thrive without the DA, says EFF's Malema?
As you've seen on many occasions, sometimes we would share milestones that are there. As part of this, the city's finances were stabilizing and the city was going in a positive direction. This was me sharing an article, as I would in other instances as well, so that Sergeant Nkosi would see that the city is doing much better. That's some of the issues that we would normally talk about.
And the article's about Mr. Malema?
No, it's about the city, that the city's governance is improving and the city is doing well.
Yes, but the only person mentioned in the headline of the article is Mr. Malema. Is that correct? You see anybody else mentioned there?
I focused on Tshwane. Tshwane, the
No,
institution.
sorry, I'm asking you a question. Do you see anybody else mentioned in the headline of the article? Yes or no?
On the headline, there's only Malema mentioned.
Do you see any photograph of anyone other than Mr. Malema in this screenshot?
On the article, no.
Is there any reference to anybody other than Mr. Malema in the screenshot that you send to Mr. Nkosi?
I was sending an article. I just want to make that clear. I wasn't sending a picture. I was sending an article that Sergeant Nkosi should read.
Yes, but I'm asking you, did that article and that screenshot refer to anybody other than Mr. Malema?
Chair,
Yes or no? It's quite a simple question. The answer
You see,
is incontrovertibly no.
Senior Counsel.
I'm going to object at this point in time. The witness clearly said he sent an article. If my learned friend wishes to deal with the content of the article, as he clearly wants to do right now, in fairness to the witness, then produce the article that the witness says he sent at that point in time. Don't ask him in abstracto, and when he tries to explain, you just cut him off. That is not the way I assume the Commission deals with witnesses that's trying to explain themselves. Whilst I'm on this topic, Chairperson, I have noticed that there seems to be an issue with the manner of the messages that we've received in the bundle. My learned friend refers to forwarded messages, but what we received does not indicate whether a message was forwarded or not. And with the greatest of respect, when you confront a
Perhaps
witness...
let's deal with the first issue.
I'm happy to
Yes.
stop that then.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Van den. Yes, Mr. Shaskalsin.
I'm not questioning this witness on the content of the article. I'm questioning this witness on the screenshot that he sent Sergeant Nkosi with a view to understanding the message that he sent less than 2 minutes after sending that screenshot. I haven't got there yet, and I have my line has been interrupted by this objection. But I'm perfectly entitled to ask, is there any face or is there any photograph of anyone in the screenshot and any name of anyone in the screenshot other than Mr. Malema? Because less than 2 minutes later, there is a message, we are managing this guy. And the question is, who is this guy?
Chairperson, may I respond, please? My learned friend very clearly, and the record will reflect it, when he asked him, does the content refer to anybody else than Mr. Malema? And as I say, if there's an issue about that, then we can play the record back. Because he clearly asked him about the content. The moment the witness responded by saying, I sent him an article, he had said to him then, well, does the content refer to anybody but Mr. Malema?
Let's resolve this by allowing the question, but also allowing Mr. MNISI to give whatever explanation he may want to give Mr. Shaskalsin. But of course, that does not apply across the board in the sense that we will allow explanations all the time, even where we are of the view that explanations are not necessary. But just so as to move forward, let's, yes.
There was a second complaint about forwarded messages, Chair.
Yes, yes.
We have included...
I stopped Ms. Van den here for midway on that one. Perhaps, please, yes, go to the end of the point.
Thank you very much. I think what I'm going to do is after the tea time, I will address you on that issue, because I've noticed throughout the manner in which the questioning or cross-examination was going, that it refers to forwarded message. We all know what a forwarded message looks like. It's got a little thing that shows that it's been forwarded. These messages are not. But I'm going to address you in full on that issue and a further issue after tea time. Sorry. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I don't want to waste time, so if I can just put our position, which is the only forwarded messages that we refer to are messages forwarded between Sergeant Nkosi, messages between Sergeant Nkosi and Deputy Chief Dlamini that are forwarded to Mr. MNISI, or messages between Sergeant Nkosi and Mr. MNISI that are forwarded to Deputy Chief Dlamini. The full set of texts of both of those sets of texts is in the bundle. In each case, I can show you the date stamp and time stamp of the message that I say is forwarded from one, and then show that it is forwarded 2 minutes later.
We actually saw that during Mr. Nkosi's, Sergeant Nkosi's testimony, Mr. Shaskalsin.
Indeed.
But, yes, but perhaps during the tea break, if you could explain how that works to Ms. Van den here. And I understand what you say. For example, you have those two arrows that on your and my phone will show that a message has been forwarded. But I think Mr. Shaskalson will be able to
Chairperson,
explain.
because it
Yes.
goes a step further than that.
Yes.
We've not been given the courtesy of being shown whether the message that was forwarded before. Now, normally in matters of this, where you deal with digital information or expert evidence,
Yes.
you have an affidavit that sets out exactly what, we don't have anything like that. And maybe that's something my learned friend at this point can chew on, where you properly see for you to test the veracity of what you are dealing with.
May we leave it until after the tea break then. I hope that there will be that engagement between the two of you, and let's see what comes out of the flash when we come back after tea.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, Mr. Shaskalson.
So underneath the screenshot, you say, we are managing this guy, my brother. Who was this guy?
Chair, I think we must read the complete message. The message continues. The message says, I want to show you Mbungulu will never win. That's exactly what I'm referring to, and stopping midway causes a distortion. And if we continue with the message, you can see clearly who I was referring to.
So,
Can you please answer then, who was this guy?
Mbungulu.
This guy, we are managing this guy. Who's the guy you were referring to?
I'm referring to the guy I termed here as Mbungulu, Chair.
and that's Mpho Lekukela,
Yes,
is it
yes.
not? Yes. And he's associated with the ANC, is he not?
He's a former official at the City of Tshwane. I know him as an official at the City of Tshwane.
Yes. Sergeant Nkosi confirmed that he is associated with the ANC.
I can't confirm that.
So when you said you were managing this guy, you were managing Mr. Lekukela, not managing Mr. Malema.
Yes.
Did you have any other dealings with Mr. Malema or the EFF in relation to TMPD 1 of 2024-25?
No.
Let me ask the question before you move from this text. What is it about Mr. Lekukela that you were managing? I mean, there's no, what
Yeah.
you're telling us, there's no context in the text, so maybe explain to us who is Mr. Lekukela, and what was it about him that you were discussing with Sergeant Nkosi and the managing? What about him were you managing?
Chairperson, we addressed some of this matter in the sworn affidavit, where we discussed at paragraph 2.6 about a relationship that I had with Mr. Mpho Lekukela. And at this point in time, I did indicate that it was a bit of a strenuous relationship. He was an employee within the City of Tshwane. I also mentioned within the sworn statement that there were work-related disagreements, which I said they were confidential and private. I didn't want to air them for the commission, but it was as a result of that.
My recollection of your statement was you brought Sergeant Nkosi in to mediate between you and Mr. Lekukela. That's how I remember your statement and the mention of Mr. Lekukela. Here you are speaking about managing him. If indeed Mbungulu is Lekukela, you say that's who you were referring to. You are managing him and he will never win. I'm trying to get you to make this make sense to us who are listening and have to evaluate your evidence.
Thanks, Commissioner. I think, firstly, since I arrived at the City of Tshwane, of course, due to a variety of reasons, my authority has always been undermined by a number of individuals. Maybe firstly, as a result of my age, initially. Secondly, I'm not originally from the City of Tshwane. And amongst those individuals, from my perspective, was Mr. Mpho Lekukela, where I would have viewed it as a situation where he didn't want me to thrive, and any work-related instructions I would give, they were not really followed accordingly. Like I'm saying, I don't want to go into the details of those confidential matters, if the permission allows, but on the context of that, and that no matter which individual at the onset had tried to set me up to fail, was not winning. The city was on a positive trajectory, the city was improving, the finances of the city were stabilizing.
Thank you.
You say you had no dealings with the EFF in relation to this tender.
None whatsoever, SC.
Can we go to page 153? Do you have 153?
Yes.
At the foot of that page, you'll see that at 11:06, timestamp 9:06, you call Sergeant Nkosi on the 21st of March.
Yes.
We go over the page, and a minute after that call at 11:07, you send him a message. Good morning. I had a meeting with Action SA and EFF yesterday. Telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me. What were you referring to?
Firstly, Chair, I can confirm that this is not a message that I sent, and if you have the data, this is forwarded. Firstly, I don't speak to Mr. Sergeant Nkosi in this manner. All our discussions are highly informal, as we've seen. This was a forwarded message. It was not from me. I did not meet anyone from EFF, nor did I meet anyone from Action SA.
So you forwarded this message
Yes.
to Sergeant Nkosi?
Exactly.
From whom?
I forwarded this message from the Deputy Executive Mayor of the city,
Sorry, I didn't hear. From?
Mr. Eugene Modise.
Also called Mr. Bonzo Modise, referred to in the papers as Bonzo.
Yes.
So you forwarded this message from Mr. Modise to Sergeant Nkosi. Why?
So firstly, the context of this was that the Deputy Mayor was telling me that to be careful, there are people who are trying to influence the process. He sends me this message. He then did call me, and we had other discussions afterwards that the process is going to be compromised. I need to be careful. There'll be people purporting to be from Action SA, EFF. I'm saying purporting because I don't know these people. I did not meet them. That I need to be careful and well, frankly, do not be vulnerable to this situation. I shared with Sergeant Nkosi as an element of discussing that as well, that this process can't be, look how brazen people are. People are so brazen, they go to the point of even trying to lure the Deputy Executive Mayor to interfere in procurement processes. That was the discussion around that. And this was me still, in a subtle manner, explaining to Sergeant Nkosi that we can't interfere in procurement processes. Even the Deputy Mayor is experiencing issues of this nature, and this must be avoided at all costs.
And the process that we're talking about now is the process in relation to the award of Tender 1, interfering with this process.
Yes, it's
So-
any interference that might have been there.
But when you talk, you mentioned interfering in this process, and Mr. Modise had mentioned that there was interference, there's possible interference in this process. That process was the award of the tender.
Yes,
Yes.
we needed to guard against that.
Yes. You forward that to Sergeant Nkosi?
Yes.
Yes. Now, Sergeant Nkosi has no business being anywhere near this process, does he?
Chair, he has already got business. I remember I told you on 148 and 152, he's already asking me the same thing. So he's already got business, I'll say, in terms of trying to get me to check compliance. 148, he wants me to check compliance. 152, he repeats that. I'm in a subtle manner trying to tell him you can't do that. That's the context behind me forwarding him that. To even say, even the Deputy Mayor is facing such brazen circumstances, we can't have that.
Chair, I was hoping to end this line before tea, but it's going to be at least another 10 minutes, so I can continue. Or I'm in your hands.
Let's take the adjournment and resume at 11:25. Let's adjourn.
All right, we seem to be ready to resume. Please make sure that your cell phones are off. Members of the public, please make sure that your cell phones are off. Thank you.
Ms. van den Heefer, I hear from our spokesperson that you need a little bit of time.
Sorry, Chairperson, I wanted to zip my jacket up under, otherwise I'm not very well dressed. I mean, I've got something on underneath.
Oh,
but
so,
just to,
so we
I
may
only
start.
needed
All right,
time.
all right.
Just to also, Chairperson,
Yes.
we've had the opportunity to talk to each other. My learned friend has undertaken to provide us with certain documents. Yeah, I don't know if he needs us to go further about the conversation, but at this stage, I will assume I can park that point and we can move on at this point.
Thank you, Ms. van den Heefer. Mr. Shaskelson.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. MNISI, before we broke, you were explaining that the message at the top of page 154 was a message sent to you by Mr. Modise, referring to his discussions with Action SA and EFF, and you understood it to be a warning to you that there were people trying to interfere with the tender process in relation to TMPD1. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair.
And you forwarded that to Sergeant Nkosi, and if I understood, actually I don't want to put words into your mouth. Can you just repeat, why did you forward that to Sergeant Nkosi?
Like I said earlier on, the brazen nature of individuals trying to interfere in the process had escalated to levels where the MMC of Finance or the Deputy Executive Mayor was also cornered for issues of this nature, where he himself had to issue a warning to me, say, be careful, let's ensure that the process is highly safeguarded in order to ensure that there are no loopholes in the process of awarding this tender. The context of me sending this was also to make it further clear to Sergeant Nkosi that there's nothing I can do to assist you in this process. This is something that we are highly safeguarding in a subtle manner.
So, am I understanding you correctly to say essentially that you were warning Sergeant Nkosi this is not something to interfere with, or I'm still, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I see.
Now, if we look at the timestamp of your message to Sergeant Nkosi, that's 9:07, which is 11:07 in the morning on of the 21st of March. If we go to page 434, which will be in file 4, (434). You see it?
Yes.
You'll see that shortly after you sent that forwarded message to Sergeant Nkosi, he sent it at 11:17 to Deputy Chief Dlamini.
I can see that.
Now, did this tender have anything, did Deputy Chief Dlamini have any legitimate role to play in this tender?
Legitimate role, meaning part of the process.
Yes, part of the process.
As far as I'm concerned, he was not part of the process.
So he had no legitimate role to play in the process?
No, Chair. Maybe he could have assisted in terms of compiling specifications, I'm not sure. But in terms of the process that was followed, he was not part of that.
Once bids were in and before the BEC, he had no legitimate role to play?
No.
that takes me back to the first instance that we were discussing on the 11th of March.
Is that on page 148?
That's on page 148. And when I asked you about these messages, you accepted that they were forwarded to you from Mr. Nkosi from messages he had received from Deputy Chief Dlamini, and that at the time you would have known that. You recall that?
Yes, I did, and I did confirm that, SC.
Now, what is General Dlamini doing, saying that the two vehicles for land are Ngapeshea and El Shaddai? Is that anything that he should have a legitimate role in, well, in being part of?
Well, I can't answer for him, SC.
Well, well, you receive a message which you understand to have originated or to have been sent to Sergeant Nkosi by Deputy Chief Dlamini that says the two vehicles for land are Ngapeshea Security Services, El Shaddai Security Services. What legitimate purpose could Deputy Chief Dlamini have in sending that message to Sergeant Nkosi?
Chairperson, I can't answer why he would send it to him. My understanding when I received this, they wanted me to assist in checking compliance, which I couldn't do.
Yeah, but surely Deputy Chief Dlamini knows that you can't check compliance. He's a senior official of the city. He understands how procurement is supposed to operate. Mm-hmm. But he's asking you to do something which would be unlawful, is it not?
Chair, I'm going to focus on my understanding in this. And these messages, when received, the purpose of that was for me to assist in checking compliance. I made it extremely clear that there's nothing I can do with that. The thought process for Mr. Dlamini would be a very difficult process for me to comment on. I would rather comment on the context of me receiving these and how I understood that and how I understand that now.
But you have a senior official of the city asking you to do something in relation to a procurement process that you understand to be unlawful.
Chair, he didn't ask me to do that.
So he didn't ask you to do that. You understood him, or you understood Sergeant Nkosi to be asking you to do that?
Yes.
How did you understand the meaning of his message to Sergeant Nkosi? The two vehicles for land are Ngapeshea Security Services, El Shaddai Security Services. What did you understand in relation to that?
Two vehicles which we need to check compliance on are Ngapeshea and El Shaddai.
Now, why would Deputy Chief Dlamini ask Sergeant Nkosi to check compliance on these two vehicles?
I can't comment on why he would ask Sergeant Nkosi, Chair.
Well, is there any conceivable basis on which Sergeant Nkosi would be in a position lawfully to check for compliance on two vehicles?
Sergeant Nkosi doesn't work for the city, so he wouldn't.
No. So, did it not occur to you that what Deputy Chief Dlamini had done in this regard was probably improper?
Chair, what occurred to me here was that they wanted me to check compliance. I had received these messages from Sergeant Nkosi. There was nothing I could do about that. Hence, in my submission, ignored, didn't entertain, and I had to play along in order to get this matter off my table.
Yes, but I understood your evidence earlier to be that you explained to Sergeant Nkosi that you can't do this. Did you explain anything to Deputy Chief Dlamini?
No, I didn't speak to Deputy Chief Dlamini about this matter.
Did you take anything further in relation to Deputy Chief Dlamini and the propriety of what he had done? Did you raise a complaint in the city?
No, Chair. Purely on the basis that this was a request for me to check compliance. There was nothing improper about that. It was someone's misunderstanding of the procurement environment. At this stage, there's no alarm for me to raise.
But surely,
except for to safeguard the process, apologies SC, except for me to ensure that the process is followed to the T and there are no glitches along the way. That was my pure responsibility. We deal with a number of issues, Chair, and sometimes as a manager you need to avoid raising any matters that would not have any substance in the future. So I hadn't had any formal substantive evidence that could prove beyond reasonable doubt on what we're discussing now. Hence, I had to take a decision to ensure that the process is safeguarded to the T.
But here you have a senior official in the Municipal Police Department who appears at the very least on your understanding of things to be suggesting through an outsider to the city that somebody should be checking for compliance on the part of two companies at a time when it would be impermissible for anybody to do that.
I wouldn't know the discussions between Sergeant Nkosi and General Dlamini. I'm aware of this because I had received them as a result of that. I view this as a request for him to check that. Whether Dlamini wanted him to send it to me or anyone else, I don't know, and I can't comment on that.
But you did understand that Dlamini was making this inquiry of Sergeant Nkosi?
So looking at the text, I agree with you. Looking at this text and how they're formulated, especially on number 3. At the first one, maybe I might not have seen that. But from the second one, when we see afternoon captain, I already start getting a flag. Because that, I know he refers to him as captain. On the first one, with all due respect, those inferences that we normally have, as you've alluded to earlier on, the general, Mfowethu, and captain are not there. But on the second one, that's how I view that.
Let's go to the second case where these two bidders were sent to you in a message from Sergeant Nkosi. That is, as you pointed out at the foot of page 152. And you've dealt with the second case in your responses to the questions of the commissioners. I just want to put to you that if in the first case you'd made it clear that you can't do that, you would presumably have been mildly irritated when a second request was addressed to you to do that which you had already told someone you could not do. Were you not irritated by the second request?
The second request, Chair, you need to give someone a benefit of the doubt. And the benefit of the doubt was maybe he didn't understand me, maybe he didn't get me clearly. From the third instance moving forward, I can confirm an element of annoyance and irritation.
Well, you see, it's your response to the second request which strikes me as odd, because you get the request, you've already explained that you can't do this, and then you text back, "Thanks, my bro." Why did you text back, "Thanks, my bro"?
So in the call earlier on 152, we first had a call before he sent me those messages, as you can see on 152. In this call, there was a reminder. Did you manage to check on that? So I said to him, no, I didn't, and I even forgot what entities are you referring to. He then sends them to me, and I say, thank you for sending them to me.
But your evidence is that you'd already told him you can't check on any entities.
Yes.
So the identity of the entities at some level was irrelevant. Whoever they were, you weren't going to check.
Spot on.
So why did you thank him for giving you information that was irrelevant? First question.
No, I was acknowledging his reminder. He was reminding me here. I sent you something on the 11th. You didn't say anything about it. You didn't give me any feedback. He then comes back on the 18th after our phone call, and then he sends them to me again. And the context of our phone call is, did you manage to check on what I had sent to you on the 11th on page 148? My response to that was, no, I didn't. I couldn't, but I don't have that anymore. I don't recall. He then sends them to me as a form of a reminder.
But
Presumably, Mr. MNISI, in that call, you would have said to him, I cannot check. You would have repeated what you told him previously in this call before he sends you these messages.
So, Commissioner, at this point, I just wanted to move on from this matter.
I understand you want to move on, but you have a call with him. This is the second time. So you presumably, I'm saying to you, presumably you would have said to him, forward to, I can't check this thing in that call. No?
So I didn't say that. I said I don't remember. I recall I said I don't even remember what you sent me. Then he said, I'll send it to you again. In the phone call, the discussion is, did you check what I sent to you on the 11th? My response is, I don't remember. What are you talking about? I had remembered, obviously, Chair, but I was trying to move away from that issue. He then sends me the two names in terms of trying to remind me on what I had just said I had forgotten.
Yes. And you don't say to him, thank you, I've received it, but as I told you, I won't be checking. You just say thank you.
So when we hung up on the call, he then sends that to me. Then in the response, I said thank you to him. In the hope that, Chair, it will stop from here. He would probably presume that maybe I will check for him or do something about it. Unfortunately, he's not convinced and it persists.
So you thought he would stop because you said thank you. You thought
Yes.
from that thank you, he would stop asking you.
Yes, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
But his response to your thank you is to send you a thank you emoji. If you look at page 153, at message time 6:59, actual time 8:59, he sends you a thank you emoji, those two hands put together.
I can see that, SC.
So he's presumably thanking you something, thank you for what he thinks you are either going to do or have undertaken to do or have done. I mean, he's thanking you for something. What's he thanking you for?
I'm not sure what he's thanking me for.
But did it not, I mean, your evidence now is that you were hoping at this stage he'd go away. He'd understand. But he gives you a thank you emoji. Is that consistent with someone who thinks that his request has been rejected and explained?
Chair, he probably thinks I'm going to check.
Yes.
Yeah, so in this place, I'm already starting my strategy of trying to play along because I can see where this is going. So me thanking him, he's going to think that I'm going to do something about it, which of course I'm not because I can't and I didn't. He thanks me because he's of the view that I will be able to try and assist him. I read that in that context.
I'm sorry to do this. There was one other issue that I wanted to raise in respect to that first occasion.
Before you move to that, Mr. Shaskelson, do you remember, of course you do, when I engaged you about your use of 482, and I suggested to you that in context it appears either to be thank you or at the very least an acknowledgement. You remember that?
I remember, Chair, when you raised that.
Yes. Now here at 153 you have those, and there are two of them, one after the other. You explained the two that I referred you to earlier, despite the fact that they were standalone 482s, but you explained that they were connected to the texts that followed each one of them. What would you say about these two here? Because there are no sentences that follow them.
Chair, I would say to you, those refer to the next day.
I'm sorry?
This is on the 19th. It's the next day. The previous one was on the 18th. So the two mfuetos that you see is the next day. So it's completely unrelated. And it was the start of a new day where I was greeting him as a friend. How are you doing? Are you well? How's your day looking? Simple courtesy greetings of a friend of yours. So it's not related whatsoever. And when I say mfueto, it does not mean I'm greeting him or I'm acknowledging or I'm thanking him, Chairperson.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry to go back to that first message again, but there was an issue that I wanted to canvass with you, which is that very first message on page 148. It goes, "Afternoon, my brother. I trust you are well and your family. My sincere apologies for the delay in sending this message. The two vehicles for land are." Now, why would someone apologize for a delay in sending a request to check compliance on two vehicles?
Well, Chair, as we are aware, these are messages from General Dlamini to Sergeant Nkosi. They must probably have their own discussion after that. But in me receiving this, I pick up the keen points of interest, which I know we had a discussion on later on, and it's on checking compliance for Ngapeshe and El Shaddai. In terms of the apologies for the delayed message, that must have been a communication, of course, between the General as well as Sergeant Nkosi, which I can't comment on.
And you knew right through this that Ngapeshe was Sergeant Nkosi's brother's company?
True.
Yes. So you knew that Sergeant Nkosi was asking you to do something in relation to his brother's company?
To check compliance in terms of his brother's company, yes, SC.
Yes. At a later stage, though, you came to realize that what he really wanted was for you to ensure the award to the brother's company.
I suspected that in my own analysis due to the persistence.
Before we move to the third case, there's something else in relation to this tender, which happens in between the second and the third case that I want to address with you, and it's the events of the 23rd of March. So if we go to page 155.
Sorry, Mr. Chaskalson, maybe before you do that, I didn't realize you're moving on. Can I just ask a question about 154, the text that you discussed in 154? It's that text that you say came to you from Mr. Modise. Mr. MNISI?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that text was preceded by a telephone call on the previous page between
Yes.
you and Sergeant Nkosi. And then you have that text, which you say is from Mr. Modise. Now, there's nothing in the text itself from Mr. Modise that explains, especially that last sentence. What did you want Mr. Sergeant Nkosi to make of that last sentence that says, telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me? What did you want him to make of it?
So I think in short, the purpose of the phone call was to contextualize him on the potential irregularities and to try to make the matter sink in, if he didn't understand it first, that there's no way we can assist in checking compliance. So the context of the entire message was saying, the deputy mayor is even facing issues of this nature and is raising severe alarms, which I had alerted you on. There's nothing we can do on this matter. Compliance can be checked. The process must be followed to the T.
Okay. So in your call, you had told him that Mr. Modise, what? What about Mr. Modise?
No, he obviously asked the commissioner that what's this message about, and I told him that this unfolded from the executive.
No, the message comes after a call. Otherwise, your message comes cold. It has no context whatsoever. So are you saying that when you sent this message, he would not have known what this message is about and what the point of you sending it is until you did a call?
Chair, what I can confirm is that in between there I had to clarify to him, and I did clarify to him on what was going on.
Sorry, in between you did what?
So what I'm trying to say is that the call afterwards is where I explained to Sergeant Nkosi what the context of that message was.
Okay, let's do this step by step. So when you send him the message
Yes.
that reads, I had a meeting with Action SA and EFF yesterday telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me. So when this message, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. When this message lands in his inbox, you're saying he didn't know, he wouldn't have known what it is about.
No, until the second call.
He just gets a random message from you.
So he gets a message from me, and on 154 we have a discussion, and I expand that further.
When you say one from before you had a discussion, you mean the day before, the earlier message before the text?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm battling
Yes.
to understand your sequence and
Okay.
explanation of this text. So be patient with me.
Yes, Commissioner.
You sent this message, but before this message there was a call, right? Are you saying that call would have explained this message, or it is a subsequent call that only explains the message for the first time?
It's the subsequent call that explains the message for the first time.
So the call at 9:08.
9:08.
Which we find at page
Exactly.
154.
Yes.
Okay. And what do you say to him about this message while you're sending the message to him?
I thought I've explained that, Commissioner. I was trying to say that I've received this from the Deputy Executive Mayor. He's getting concerns because there are people trying to court him, trying to make him or have him influence the process. It can't be done. We are safeguarding this process to the T. This was a way of me explaining to him subtle what had happened on 148.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Modise sends you this message, for it to make sense, to have meaning to you, to mean anything to you, he would have had a call with you.
Yes,
and I
yes,
think
indeed.
that was your evidence
Yes,
that he had
indeed.
a call. Okay. Then explain to us what he said about that last line. Telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me. We know he had a meeting with Action SA
Yes.
and EFF. And then he tells you that telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me. What did Mr. Modise say to you about the submission of 5? What is that all about?
So in short, he was telling me that individuals from the purported individuals from Action SA and EFF want him to assist in submitting names for companies to be favored. And that didn't sit well with him. We might not have broken down each sentence during the call, but the context of the call was, you need to be very careful. If I'm getting this, I can imagine the influx that you or anyone within your team will be getting. You need to safeguard the process and ensure that it's secured.
Okay, so what I think I'm more interested in what he said about the Action SA and EFF, not just generally, just Action SA and EFF from his discussion with them. In that last line, you say he was saying to you, in the telephone call, he was saying to you that these 2 entities, or one of them, was telling him to submit 5 names to be favored for the tender, and he found it to be an insult.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Can we look at another event that happens between the second and third attempts to raise bidders' names with you? It's a series of events on the 23rd of March, page 155. And there at message time 5:45, actual time 7:45 p.m., Sergeant Nkosi messages you saying, "Are you well? Wanted to check earlier about the meeting with US." Now, US is Deputy Chief Dlamini, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Your response is, "I'm okay, my brother," in response to, "Are you well?" And then, "Let's meet General tomorrow, please." So you are saying to Sergeant Nkosi, let's meet with Deputy Chief Dlamini tomorrow, which would be the 24th of March.
Spot on.
Later that evening, Sergeant Nkosi sends you a message which on its face is clearly one of those messages which originates with Deputy Chief Dlamini, because we see Captain and Umpuetu. But you can actually see that it comes from Deputy Chief Dlamini on page 435, chat 1, if you just want to take that note. And the message says, "Afternoon, Captain. I trust you're well in your family. I thought we will meet up today so that I could get clarity on something Kuumpuetu. Kane called me on Friday and asked if that Gubis want to meet up with me on Saturday. I then pushed the meeting to Monday with a view of getting direction from Kuumpuetu first today. Please check with him on this and his advice, if I should go or drop them. I don't want to make a mistake on such matters because I believe the center should be one." Now, a number of questions. Kane, I presume, is Mr. Kane Mpofu, who's being referred to here.
That's true.
What is his role?
He's an acting divisional head in supply chain management.
So he is responsible for, he has responsibilities relating to procurement.
Yes.
The message says that Mr. Mpofu called Deputy Chief Dlamini on Friday and asked that Gubis want to meet him on Saturday. He pushed the meeting to Monday with a view of getting direction from yourself first today. He's asking Sergeant Nkosi to check with you and what your advice is, if you should go to the meeting or drop it. Now, what did you understand this request for a meeting from Gubis to be about?
Okay. Yes, see, this was in relation to the outstanding payment. There's no link whatsoever to TMPD 01. If you take note that during our discussions, there were three-way calls or messages in reference to an outstanding payment for ad hoc services. During that period, there was an ex post facto payment that couldn't be made as a result of this being related to the previous financial year. It was a June 2024 invoice, if I'm not mistaken. And if I could point you out to that so that you can understand where I'm coming from, if we could please go to page 144 of this pack. So on page 144, it's an invoice that couldn't be resolved as a result of it being due in the previous financial year. The context of what you're referring to us now on 155 is in reference to this payment that couldn't be done and wasn't done as a result of limitations that the city had faced. It was an ex post facto invoice. It hadn't been captured accordingly in the city's accruals in the previous financial year, hence it could not be paid. So the context of that message was in relation to Gubis making a follow-up in terms of this outstanding payment. And when that discussion continues, there are set rules of protocols in terms of dealing with payment. You need to ensure that you follow the correct channels, and the correct channels will be to firstly escalate it to the necessary supply chain management or TMPD officials, as I had initially designated in GM22. The second process, if you're unhappy with that, would then be to escalate further to myself. So in relation to that was for them to follow the correct procedures and not jump all processes and just raise the matter with either him or with me. So there's no relation to that message to TMPD.
So what was the correct procedure for them to follow?
If there's an outstanding payment, Chair, it needs to be escalated accordingly within the relevant user department. If they fail and don't get any joy out of that, they need to escalate that to supply chain management with adequate substantiating reasons. If still they're unable to have joy within that process, it's then escalated to myself, as did the previous ad hoc tender, and as I demonstrated on GM22 and GM23. So you couldn't jump any process. This reason was not processed for, this payment or this invoice had not been processed for a reason.
Can I track this process forward?
Can I just ask a question about this? Sorry, Mr. Chaskason, I do apologize. This text would, if this is about unpaid invoices, and you say there's a procedure to be followed, and that's what you wanted them to do, why would you be planning to have a report back meeting which involves Sergeant Nkosi when this is a TSHWANE matter?
Yeah,
I think it's a payment issue. It's
Yes.
not about checking compliance and any of that stuff. Why are you involving him?
Yeah. So in terms of the payment, he was already involved in this matter. He had overheard that phone call discussion that I had with Mr. Calvin Mahlangu. From that process, then he took it upon himself to call the general, which I then spoke to. So he was already involved in this matter. I wouldn't necessarily say we wanted to involve him in terms of the nitty-gritties and the details of that. Hence, I don't explain it to him, and I say rather make sure that I meet with the general so that we can outline the possible way forward.
I mean, I don't understand your answer. He was already involved, you say, because he took it upon himself, but he's not I would have expected your CFO to say, thank you for your assistance in having made that first unsolicited call, but you don't belong to the city, that's the end of it. But here you are. You're saying he must advise Dlamini to go meet with Gubis, and then he can report back to us the following day. If this is about unpaid invoices, it has absolutely nothing to do with Sergeant Nkosi. It's not about checking tenders. It's a payment internal process, but you already have an answer because that's what you say. You say there are internal processes. to this. So why would you be discussing with Nkosi in the feedback session, in the presence of an outsider, because he is an outsider?
Okay, I think, in fact, at this point in time, it was convenient for me because he'd already involved himself. I do deal with a number of issues on a day-to-day basis, and at the top of my mind, one issue off my table and being dealt with was convenient for me. Of course, when I am having a discussion with the general, it would have been, Sergeant Nkosi would have been there just in general terms, and most of the times he would probably be on his phone or doing anything of that nature. But what I want to reiterate here is that in hindsight, I probably should have requested the numbers immediately of General Dlamini at this stage in order to enable a direct communication with him moving forward in this matter. That would have been ideal. I should have done that. But Chair, I also reiterate that I've never shared any confidential or sensitive information with Sergeant Nkosi on this matter. It was merely coordinating those engagements. However, Chair, I do later on, once this topic or subject matter is closed, request for the General's number. So that on other issues where he hadn't involved himself initially, I start having direct conversations or discussions with the General.
You don't consider payment issues between TSHWANE and its service provider to be matters confidential to TSHWANE, to which an outsider like Sergeant Nkosi has no business to be involved and should in fact not be involved? You don't consider that to be confidential to TSHWANE?
No, Chair, I do consider it.
Yes.
But I'm saying the discussions were in general terms. If you look at what I am discussing with him, I'm not sending him details of how much they're owed. I'm not sending him details of specific items that are contained. I'm not sending him that. I'm sending him in general terms.
Thank you.
Can I just get clarity? You said that the correct procedure is first to escalate to the department.
Yes.
Now, I understood there to be some sort of lack of clarity in relation that it caused the non-payments or the delayed payments because the user department, as it were, was water affairs or water and sanitation, and it was TMPD that needed to pay. Who's the department who they should have escalated to here?
Whoever they were engaging with. From my perspective, whichever department has given them a deployment letter. If it's TMPD, they need to engage TMPD accordingly. So in this instance, they would have gone back to the necessary people within APSS and make follow-ups or clarity-seeking questions from them.
Because I understood the problem in this case to have been, and we've heard some evidence about it, that water and sanitation was employing or engaging these guards without any written authorization from TMPD.
No, Chair. As far as I'm concerned, water and sanitation was engaging TMPD, and TMPD was issuing deployment letters. The standoff came when it was time to pay. Risk assessments were done between water and sanitation business unit as well as TMPD when it's time to make a cost center available for the payment. TMPD said, no, the budget that we have is sufficient for our programs. When we issue these deployment letters as per your advice, we were of the view you're going to pay it from your general ledger. So the standoff came when amounts of money is needed to be made available to process the payments and to issue the purchase orders.
So then on that understanding, the relevant department with which Gubis should have been engaging would have been TMPD.
Spot on.
And whose responsibility is it within TMPD to attend to these sorts of issues?
Well, the head is Deputy Chief Rivers Peace.
Yes. So why are you suggesting they meet with General Dlamini?
Okay. So if there's a standoff on an invoice, that's an indication that that invoice has not been approved or there are issues in terms of uploading that. That is an indication that has not been transferred to the support and finance division of TMPD. As we are aware, Deputy Chief Dlamini is responsible for support services and for finance matters within TMPD, meaning what falls within his portfolio is invoices that have been approved with the relevant deployment orders, which have been certified as. There was an issue, because this was a prior financial year matter. Hence, this invoice had not been approved, technically speaking, because of those restrictions. So it was important for them to go back to the relevant department within TMPD. In this case, it would have been DC Revo Species Division and the relevant individual within his portfolio. Once that has been approved, it will then revert back to Deputy Dlamini. There was nothing that could be done without the correct process being followed.
Let's look at this message. It ends with, I don't want to make a mistake on such matters because I believe the center should be one. What is he saying there? What do you understand him to be saying there?
It means the process must always be followed to the T. Compliance matters are essential. There can't be a breakdown in terms of any procedures that the city has set. So the center must hold, internal controls must be followed, processes and procedures and internal controls must be adhered to.
Your response at 825 at the foot of page 155 is, let's let General meet him then. He will brief us of the outcomes of the discussion when we meet later in Mpuetu.
Yes.
Why did you then need to be briefed at this stage if the procedure was that this wasn't a matter that should come to your office at this stage?
I'm a hands-on individual, and if any matters that are raised, I need to be aware how it starts and how it ends. I was already involved in this matter. I couldn't leave it halfway and just assume that a resolution would have been there. So the purpose of this would have been to get the proper way forward and what the outcomes of that engagement would have been.
Let's go forward to page 178. That's 4 days later on the 27th of March. Do you see it?
Yes, I see that.
You see at message time 5:40, which is actually 7:40 p.m. Sergeant Nkosi sends you a screenshot of a chat between himself and Deputy Chief Dlamini, who he has saved as General Dlamini undercover. And it says, "Afternoon, Captain. I had a meeting with Kane and those guys today as I indicated." Who is he referring to?
So firstly, Chair, there's an indication that the meeting did not occur, so we had to give feedback via an SMS. So according to me reading this message, it is a follow-up in terms of the outstanding ex post facto payment. He had had a meeting with the representatives of Kubis. Within that discussion, we would have probably been discussing the matters of the ex post facto payment.
And your understanding of process is he should resolve it first with department, in other words, with TMPD, or Kubis should first resolve it with TMPD. If they can't, they should escalate it to procurement. And if they still can't, they can then raise it with you.
Spot on.
Let's look at what Deputy Chief Dlamini says. "I have told them that they should go back where they have started, Mpuetu. I said to them, he is the only gateway. They can't go with a back door. I will only be able to assist if I get an indication from Mpuetu. Protocol must be observed at all costs." So he's telling them the exact opposite of what you say is the correct procedure. Instead of starting with him, trying to resolve with him, if they don't get joy with him, going up to supply chain management, and if they don't get joy with supply chain management, finally escalating it to you, he's saying they must start with you, and he will not be a back door.
I see the inference is respectfully incorrect. The initial protocol that was followed, which resulted in me raising the matter with the Deputy Dlamini, is after the formal process had already been embarked upon, and after we had appropriate and I'll say sufficient evidence that indeed these invoices were approved by the relevant APSS department and they were due and payable for payment. If you go back, Chair, to my submission and on 436, that gives an indication of how matters should be escalated accordingly On 436, I was referring to GM23. On GM23, there's evidence of how this matter was escalated accordingly. Within this instance, we took note that Deputy Chief Dlamini was unfortunately not CC'd for whatever reason. However, the context of this discussion was that they need to follow the processes, ensure that everyone has got the necessary portfolio of evidence. He, on his own, cannot take the matter up. There are systems, there are internal controls, they must be observed. And that's how I understood this matter. Protocol must be observed. The city has established systems and controls to deal with this matter. It can't be dealt with by one person individually or another without demonstrating that I have been through this matter, I have followed up with these individuals. You can't jump a process when escalating matters that are outstanding, Chair. That's the context of that. So this is these individuals trying to use the back door to deal with this outstanding payment, whereas they're fully aware of the protocols that they had followed previously. So they need to follow those processes. Once I'm convinced that there's sufficient appropriate audit evidence and the team PD as well as supply chain management have either not dealt with this issue for whatever reasons, I can then take it forward. As is, there's nothing I can do. They need to deal with the relevant individuals within the portfolios.
But that's not what he's saying. He's saying they should go back where they have started Ku'umpuetu. That's you. He calls you Mpuetu in those conversations.
That's true.
They should go back where they have started with you. I said to them, he, in other words, you, are the only gateway. They can't go with a back door. I will only be able to assist if I get an indication from Ku'umpuetu, you. So he's saying, go back and speak to the CFO. He's the only gateway. Don't use me as a back door.
Spot on, Chair. And that's exactly what I'm explaining. So we are virtually on the same page. We just need to try and have consensus on the nature of event. Because the nature of event, I'm referring this and aligning this to the ex post facto payment, which is the true sequence of events of what occurred and what this discussion is emanating from. So as a result of them submitting the necessary portfolio of evidence, demonstrating that they've went through the entire value chain, they can't just go to him. Once I refer a matter to him, I need to also be convinced that they have a case, Chair, that needs to be answered to. First of all, we're sitting here on the 27th of March. The invoice that's outstanding is the 28th of June for the previous financial year. That hadn't been captured in our accruals. It's not recognized in the system whatsoever. So the only way to have this matter fully exhausted upon is to formalize it accordingly, send the formal communications, submit the necessary portfolio of evidence in order to enable myself to test that and to test the legitimacy of the claim that they have on board. So that's the context of this discussion when I understood it then, and that's how I understand it now, Chair, because that's what was really going on in this instance.
I'm sorry, you're losing me here. On the 23rd, Deputy Chief Dlamini says to you, Kane and the Gubis guys want to meet. Must I meet with them? Must I not meet with them? I want direction from you. You say, through Sergeant and Corsi, meet with them and brief us of the outcomes, essentially. We're on the same page thus far.
The only place where we're not on the same page is you are reading that in isolation of page 144. And what I tried to ask the Commission to refer to on the 5th of March. You're reading that in isolation with that, which is what's causing you and I not to be on the same page. So if you go to page 144, on the 5th of March, there's a discussion here and there's a copy of an invoice that I'm sent. And the contents of this discussion is, this one is for the previous financial year. We'll engage later, Nomfuetu, with me on how we can address this in order to avoid post facto. So if we read this in conjunction with your later messages, we will then be on the same page. This is an invoice that could not and was not resolved upon when we were dealing with the ad hoc services invoice from Kubi Security Services. So as a result of this still not being paid, this entity is making a follow-up, Chair. They're claiming the city still owes them 397,000 Rand. Hence, they're making follow-ups after they had received the other payments for the other invoices. This one remained outstanding. So the context of that now ties together with 157 and 178 that you're presenting now.
What was the procedure that they should have followed in relation to this previous financial year invoice? As I understood it, it was they should first raise it with the TMPD.
Yes.
If they got no joy there, they should then raise it with supply chain management.
Yes.
If they got no joy there, they should escalate it to you. So you
Yes.
should be the last port of call, not the first. You should be the last port of call, not the first.
I think also what we need to add, Chair, is that during the escalation process, they need to demonstrate beyond reasonable doubt that this invoice is due and payable. Hence, I don't want us to leave the step that they needed to start within APSS first. And APSS needs to make a motivation now. So for me to even consider this, I would have to get the invoice from the service provider along with the motivation from APSS on why I should even think about considering an invoice from a previous financial year that is closed.
But you knew all of that on the 23rd. You knew that that was what the situation was.
Yes, I did, Chair.
And you said to Deputy Chief Dlamini, we won't meet with them. You go ahead and meet and then brief us later.
Yes. So the purpose of that was, there's no reason for me to meet. They need to thrash the situation out with TMPD, make sure that they're able to submit the appropriate audit evidence for me to even consider this matter. I'm irrelevant to this stage.
So you're irrelevant to this process unless they submit all of the evidence.
This is also peculiar because it's a previous year financial invoice. The previous one, they were able to demonstrate and submit all portfolio of evidence accordingly. Hence, I was convinced that indeed these are invoices that are due and payable, authorized by the relevant structures within the city. In this particular case, that appropriate audit evidence was not there. It's a previous financial year invoice. In order for this to even be considered, there must be an express motivation on why we should even consider making this invoice available. This would now necessitate for me to make a prior period error correction, Chair, on my financial statements that had been submitted in the previous financial year. Hence, I was not willing to entertain that without having appropriate evidence. I would have to ensure that disclosure notes of the financial statements are amended. I would need to ensure justifications to the AG coming back next year on why there's a difference now between the closing and the opening balances. Hence, that process is now peculiar because it needs an additional justification.
And then on the 27th, did you receive anything between the 23rd of March and the 27th of March from General Dlamini?
Did I receive anything formally? The onus was on Gubers to make sure that they make the necessary submissions and they make a motivation to APSS. APSS is a division within TMPD where DC Revo Space is in charge. Once that has been approved, it would have automatically be then transferred to Deputy Chief Dlamini, who is the support services and finance head within TMPD. That's when I can now assist in terms of taking the way forward.
So come the 23rd, their obligation was to engage with TMPD. Is that correct?
So are we on 155 now? On the 23rd?
Yes, their obligation is to engage with the TMPD.
Yes. TMPD APSS.
Yes, they've got to make some sort of motivation to
Yes.
the TMPD, get the TMPD to approve that.
Yes.
Yes. Now, had you received anything from the TMPD between the 23rd and the 27th?
No, nothing was there, Chair.
Which then raises the question of why Deputy Chief Dlamini said what he said. Because he didn't say, I told them, give me a motivation, I can then escalate it to supply chain management, which in turn can escalate it to the CFO. Instead, he said, they should go back where they have started Ku'imfuetu. He is the only gateway. They can't go with a back door. So he's saying, you've got to go back to the CFO. But in terms of the protocol that you've just explained to us, the protocol was you as CFO can do nothing until they've gone first to TMPD.
Spot on, Chair. And even with this discussion, there was still nothing I could do. Even if Gubis decided to come straight to me, send me a formal email, give me a call, make an official engagement with my office, there was nothing I would have done. I would have referred them to the correct channels. For them, would have been to go back to TMPD and sort the matter out accordingly.
But he's not telling them to go back to TMPD. He's saying, go back to you, CFO. They should go back where they have started Kuumfuetu. He is the only gateway.
It's the gateway, Chair, to ensure that payments are made. And the payments that need to be made, there must be sufficient protocol that has been adhered to and observed at all costs. Within those protocols is ensuring that the internal controls that the city has embarked on and set are followed to the T. Within that is handling the matter with TMPD and with TMPD, APSS. So I wouldn't know what this meant, Chair, but I would presume that he was saying, let them escalate the matter to me. I will then refer it to APSS, but I can't comment on the nitty-gritties of that. I understood this purely as a means of saying they need to formally raise the matter and submit the necessary supporting evidence. And the protocols and internal controls need to be adhered to at all costs. They can't try and ambush me or him in dealing with that. So it's extremely difficult for me, Chair, to comment on just that one sentence without having context or without us having a context or a discussion on the entire message.
He also says where they started.
True.
In the message, which means that they started with you,
Yes.
according to General Dlamini.
So, Commissioner Baloyi, if you look at the second bundle that I had submitted, I attached Annex GM2. Annex GM2 is what led me to start looking at the process of the outstanding payments. Deputy Chief Dlamini was not CC'd in any of these discussions. Hence, he's saying they must refer to that process again, formalize it. I will then be in a position to refer the matter to him and whoever within TMB to handle. At this stage, he's got insufficient information to even look at the matter.
So you accept that Gubi said started with you? Because that's what that message
No, Gubis.
conveys.
Okay, apologies, Commissioner, apologies for coming in. Gubis did not start with me, they started with the supply chain management. And maybe we should go to GM 22 and 23. They started escalating, so they didn't start with me. The matter was not just raised with me. They followed the necessary protocols which I had just outlined. According to Deputy Chief Dlamini, what he understood is that he must have received the matter for the first time from me. That's what he understood. But the facts of the matter was they didn't start with me. They started through the process as demonstrated in GM 22 and GM 23.
So where are you saying where he says where they started Gumfowe to, he's incorrect? That's not where Gubi started.
No, that's not where they started.
Did you at any point refer this matter to General Dlamini after it had come to you?
It didn't come to me again in a formal nature, so I didn't take it up with him.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just clarify something, Mr. MNISI? Because when you explain what's happening on the 27th of March, you take us back to page 144, and you say the discussion is about that invoice. But if you go to page 145, especially your WhatsApp, the second one, and you read it together with the sixth one, it suggests to me that that invoice was resolved because on the 6th of March, you say, please extend my gratitude to the General. He has delivered. Purchase orders as per the request have been approved. See you later.
Commissioner, I mean all invoice except for that one. This one is clear. It could not be approved. It was not part and parcel of that. It was all, remember it was a number of invoices here to the tune of between 12 and 14 million rand. I might not remember the figure in its entirety. So all invoices for the financial year in question, which commenced from the 1st of July, were resolved. It was all invoices except this one. This one was not resolved.
So you are saying to us you are now involving Sergeant Nkosi on issues relating to all invoices to the value of 14 million.
I'm explaining to you, Chair, because you, Commissioner.
No, but you're not answering my question, Mr. MNISI. I thought the discussion here was about this one invoice. Your answer is no, it's not about this invoice. It's about all the invoices except this one. Now let's focus on all the invoices except this one. And my question to you is, are you saying to us you were involving Sergeant Nkosi in matters relating to all invoices to the value of 14 million?
I'm saying to you, Commissioner, the message that you're referring to was to say, thank you, the General has resolved all outstanding messages, all outstanding statements, apologies, except for that one.
But
That's what I'm saying.
You are sending it to Sergeant Nkosi.
I'm sending a message to Sergeant Nkosi.
You are sending it to Sergeant Nkosi. And my question is, you are involving Sergeant Nkosi on issues relating to all those invoices to the value of 14 million.
He had already been involved.
How was he involved in those issues? Because you said he overheard an issue about the Gubis invoice.
Yes. So those were all the Gubis invoice, Commissioner. How he was involved is that he took his phone and he phoned Deputy Chief Dlamini while we were in the car. When he called him, he then gave me the phone. I explained to the Deputy Chief the issue that I had been facing and the discussion that I just had with Mr. Calvin Mahlangu. So what I'm saying to you, Commissioner, is that he had already been involved in the process. But from my perspective, it was in general terms. At no stage, at no point did I raise any specifics with him. But for the purpose of the Commission and clarifying the confusion that's there, I'm stating that it was a host of invoices that were involved.
But why do you say to us in general terms? If you say to somebody, purchase orders have been approved by the city of Tshwane, that's not general terms. You are discussing with him payment issues between Tshwane and service providers. And at no point do you say to him, this is not your issue, don't involve yourself. You actually allow him to continue being involved to the point where you share with him processes. You allow him to be in possession of invoices of service providers and to share them between you and Mr. Dlamini, because that's what he's doing on 144. And all of that is appropriate to you. That somebody who's not employed by the city of Tshwane, who is not a representative of Gubis, is participating in all discussions relating to outstanding Gubis payments, processes that have to be followed in order for Gubis payments to be made, and whether or not those payments have been made. Why did you consider that appropriate?
Okay. Firstly, Commissioner, I did not share any information with Sergeant Nkosi. There's no single invoice that I've sent to him.
Mr. MNISI, when you say to him, purchase orders as per request have been approved, are you saying you're not sharing information there?
I'm responding to the concerns that you had raised.
No, but you're saying you never shared information with Sergeant Nkosi. Are you saying there when you say purchase orders as per request have been approved, that's not sharing information?
Commissioner,